Hi, everybody. We're live.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the SNX radio show with Nicole and Rob. And Nicole's having audio problems, I guess, tonight again. So I guess I'm going to do the show. And it's good to see everybody. This is my first night back on YouTube. So, you're going to kick it off with two amazing. So we're live on my channel as well. Good to see all you guys in the chat. I'm glad you guys all made it. And we have two amazing experiencers and researchers with us today. I have with me a good friend who comes on the show all the time, Preston Dennett. Preston began investigating UFOs and the paranormal in 1986 when he discovered that his family, friends, and coworkers were having dramatic, unexplained encounters. Since then, he's interviewed hundreds of witnesses and investigated a wide variety of paranormal phenomena. He's a field investigator for MUFON, a ghost hunter, a paranormal researcher, and the author of well over 30 books and hundreds of articles on UFOs and the paranormal. And I also have Dolly Saffron with me. Dolly is a UFO contactee. She shares her extraordinary experiences that began at age 1 and continue to this day. Her first conscious encounter occurred in 1973 at age 14 when a UFO landed in her backyard. She was taken on board by gray-skinned extraterrestrials. Over the years, Dolly's had numerous encounters, including being taken to other planets, learning various subjects, and even piloting a UFO. She met multiple ET types and was informed that Earth is on the verge of significant changes. And I think that's what we're going to talk about tonight. And I'd like to give a big welcome back to the show. Preston, Dolly, thanks so much for coming back on. How are you guys?
We're great. And welcome back to YouTube and everywhere else. That's awesome. Glad you're back.
Yeah. So where would you guys like to start tonight? Has there been any significant changes in with what's going on with the extraterrestrials? And
Well, the most significant change for everybody is that they had to bug out and they are really not here. Everything everybody sees now is reverse engineered. It's all us. And there are reasons for that. And it's getting crazy because the misinformation, disinformation is starting to explode everywhere. And you can almost see what group certain groups are in where this is concerned. You know, there's the military groups, there's the government groups, there's the ufology groups, and then everybody else in between. And it's getting crazy. Disclosure is a no. You know, it's not happening. Every time they go and they try, they're not coming back with anything fruitful at all.
I agree with that. It seems like they're wasting our time with these hearings. Like these hearings, I don't think are getting anywhere. Or Preston, what do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. By all accounts, the cover-up is still in place. They're not being truthful or transparent. We know they know far, far more than they're publicly saying. I think that was evidenced very clearly when Tim Gallaudet, Admiral Gallaudet, and the others on that panel, Lou Elizondo, Rich, I think that was his name, Mr. Rich, all said, we don't know what UFOs are. I'm like, really? You have no idea? I mean, we I think, already know what they are. No, I don't think that we're going to get full disclosure. To me, the end game of disclosure is showing us the craft and the bodies. I don't think we'll ever, certainly not voluntarily, get that. But on the other hand, it's interesting to hear them talking. The subject is going mainstream. That is new to me. So that is good news, but yeah, still the same old story. All talk, no action.
Yeah, I agree. One thing I wanted to ask you guys about was you guys wrote a book together, and I know some of my audience members are new; they might have not heard about that yet. And maybe Preston, maybe you could talk about the book that you wrote about Dolly, and then maybe Dolly could share a little bit about her experiences. I know you guys have told it before, but again, a lot of my some people might have not have heard about it yet. And I know the book's called Symmetry, and I know you've written books since then, but I feel like that's an important one because that one focuses specifically on Dolly and her encounters and maybe what we're going to be getting into tonight.
Yeah, it's certainly one of my favorite books, if not my favorite, honestly. It is still fairly new, but it's climbing the charts in terms of my most popular books. I expect it will be there shortly. It is the story of Dolly's lifelong experiences, fully conscious, without hypnosis, the wide variety of ETs and what she's learned from them. And it's different from all my other books, honestly, because It's one continuous narrative, one person story, as opposed to a collection of stories or a themed book like Schoolyard Encounters or UFOs at the Drive-In or Healings. This is just one person's story. And I can say with full confidence that Dolly's story is her experiences, I should say, are the most extensive of anyone I've heard, anyone I've talked to, anyone I've honestly even read about. There's a few contactees who have had really extensive experiences. Jim Sparks, Betty Andreasen. There's quite a few of them out there. But I think Dolly's is right there at the top. It's a very important story. She's got an enormous amount of information to share. I'm super blessed that she found me and permitted me to tell her story.
I agree. So Dolly, do you want to tell us a little bit about like when it all started and how it all started, and take us through like your life as a contactee, and yeah, I'd love to hear more about it.
Okay, well, it began with my family first. My father was a generational contactee. We think my mother is also. It's in our family on both sides, but nobody would ever really talk about it. My father didn't explain to me what was going on. They were dealing with a kid that was off the charts. I was already psychic when I was born. I have memories all the way back to when I was 10 months old. I started displaying abilities very young, and that put pressure on both my parents, my mother especially. I remember my contact when I was young, but it was compartmentalized. It was in and out. It wasn't one long continuous narrative like I was awake all the time. When I was 14 years old, I'd had enough. I was going to prove one way or the other that I was either crazy or I needed serious psychological help. And so I decided that this was it. And the next time I was contacted, I was going to remember the whole thing. And one night, I guess it was a Friday night, I was in the backyard with my telescope. I was doing homework. I used to take astronomy lessons in Miami at the Miami-Dade Transit Planetarium. And I was up late. It was late. And my dad, in the summertime, all our jalousied windows were always open all the time. We didn't have air conditioning back in those days. And my dad said, go to bed, kick it down, go to bed. So I brought everything in. I packed up my telescope and I got ready for bed. And I don't really sleep very much, never have. And so I stayed up in my room quietly looking out my window at what I was observing that night doing my homework. It was a beautiful night. Orion was up, and you can't help yourself in that instance. It was glorious to watch the skies. And when I did, I saw craft coming down. And I was like, oh, my God, this is it. And I have an eidetic memory, and I just sort of turned the camera on in my head, and I started notating in my mind everything that was happening. And so I come all the way down. And at the last one, when it was down behind the house, we have a big old tree where my room is, and it's to the right of my room slightly. I realized that, oh my God, this is not us, I really realized that. Nope. And I was looking at it. I mean, I looked at it from the bottom to the top, and the windows on the top facing me, there were two of them, and there were two beings in the windows looking dead at me. I made eye contact with them, and I freaked out. And I thought, oh, no, no. For some reason, I became anxious, like I've never been anxious in my life. And I decided discretion was the better part of valor. And I was going to turn and dive under my bed. I never really made it that far because my room exploded in blue white light, and I froze. And the next thing I know, I see two beings coming down this energy rope. It's the only way I could describe it in my head then, through the blue light. And when they got in the room with me, one of them was looking around my room for some reason, and the other one came up to me and put my hand on top of his hand. I was not moving. I don't know if I was paralyzed with fear, or it's the fight or flight response most people have. I will freeze solid until I decide how I'm going to get away from you. That's an instinctive human thing to do. And when he did that, I was like, and then I felt the room change, and he brought me over to this energy ribbon that was coming down, and the room really changed. It turned opaque. In other words, I was still in the room, but everything in the room sort of phased out around me. and I became weightless with him, and we went up. And I was thinking, oh my God, we're going up. And I looked up and I realized that's my ceiling. How am I going to get out of here? And we went right through it. I mean, I saw all the layers of it, everything straight up through it. And then the tree was out there, and we sort of went through the branches of the tree up to this craft, which was just above the tree. And I thought, how are we going to get in that thing? Because the energy ribbon was coming from the side of it. I saw a doorway open, or a doorway open, just opened. And the ribbon went right up alongside it. And when we got there, when my foot got even with the opening, the bottom of the opening, he shoved me in, and I landed on my keister. And there was this lady sitting there looking down at me. And I realized, oh my God, I know who this is. My brain started freaking out. I was like, oh my God, I know who this is. I got physically ill. I was so weirded out by the whole thing, because I was literally, it's like an amnesia, and suddenly you're waking up. I started shaking. I went into shock. I threw up all over myself right there on the spot. And that entity came in, and the other one did. And she told them to get me cleaned up, because I really threw up. I pulled my shirt up. I had pajamas on, and I threw up into it to protect my everything, it's a reflex. And they took me down below where we were at, and they took my clothes from me and cleaned me up and washed me off and put me in a light shower. And they gave me a smock to wear after that. I was still shaking, and they took me back up to where we were, and she could see that I'm just like freaking out now. Because I know who she is. I know. And I'm looking around and I'm thinking, I can't understand how I know this. Okay. This is just overwhelming the hell out of me. And she told them to take me around the craft, ground me to my surroundings, because she knew I was remembering. They took me all the way to the bottom. I got to see the powerhouse. They took me to the mid deck, and I got to see, I had a room on mid deck. They took me in my room. I saw my bed. I had a little cubby hole, and right there in the cubby hole was my brush. It was a fuller brush. I don't know if anybody remembers this. I'm 66 now, so it's hard to explain this, but it was a beautiful wooden brush with the most beautiful bristles. I thought I lost it, and it was sitting right there. And I picked it up and I held it, and I'm starting to have unbelievable, untold memories. Everything I see, everything I touch is grounding me to something. And I really started shaking by that time. And they took me to another room, and they gave me something to drink. And it seemed to help me. Okay. I calmed down. I stopped shaking. I became more okay. And once I started to calm down and I wasn't going to throw up again all over everybody, they took me back up to her. This woman was Mama. She is my liaison. She's the first ET I ever met when I was a little girl, when I was 5.5, 6. And she is a tall gray. And she has been with me my whole life, off and on with them. I've gone everywhere with her. She's always with me when I'm on board craft. And while we're sitting there, I heard this voice in my head say, "Hey, kiddo." And I'm thinking, I know who that is. And it literally was the craft talking to me. I call him Talata. That is not his real name. It's part of his name. His name so long, I have never really, I can speak Swedish and I still couldn't pronounce his name. It's almost Icelandic and maybe Finnish at the same time. It's really weird. And I realized who he was. I had to sit down at that point, and almost started shaking again. And he's like, it's okay. It's okay. We're real proud of you. You remember, this is good. They're very proud of me at that point. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I did it. Because I came back to myself thinking, oh my God, I did do it. I know who I am. I know where I am, and I know what's going on. And he said, now that you've achieved this, what do you want to do with your life? And I was like, well, what do you mean? Because I'm thinking I'm here and that's there. I didn't associate that my life with them and there were the same thing to them. Okay. And I said, well, I want to be an astrophysicist. I want to be a marine biologist. I want to be a nurse. I want to be a park ranger. I want to do with animals. And he said, well, if you had to pick one, what would you want to do? And I mulled it over. I'm only 14 years old. Okay. And I thought about it, and I knew exactly what I wanted to do. And I told him, I want to fly. And he said, are you sure? And I said, I'm positive. And he said, when you say that, what do you mean? And I said, fly this, I want to fly. And he said, do you know what it's going to take to do that? And I said, I don't know. And he said, it's going to take a lot. Let's go for a ride. And Mama handed me this wand. It's about this long. It's less than 12 inches. It's pretty big around. And I could feel it vibrate in my hand. And suddenly I really hear him now. I can feel everything about him in my hand through that wand. And he said, we're going to go for a ride. And he said, you're going to fly. I'm like, really? And he briefed me along with Mama on what I was going to do. I already knew how. I was doing ground school to fly a Cessna. I was already taking ground lessons. My family had pilots in it, and it was a big deal for me to want to fly anything, okay, at that point in my life. And so he gave me what I was going to be doing, and they sat me down, and we went through what they call all pilots have pre-flight checkup. You make sure all systems are ready, everybody's ready, we know we're going to go. And when he said, you call the ball. And I said, okay, I understood what that meant because I've heard that before. And so I said, let's go. And we went. And I didn't know the actual destination. I just knew that I was looking for a frequency, a monitor, a frequency. And once we got to it and we started coming up on it, I realized that we were headed straight for Saturn. And I got to see Saturn. There's no explaining to you what that's like. Everything is different than watching it on TV when you're there and it's real and you see it with your own blood and guts eyes, okay? Their screen, or Talata can see it better than I can. He's psychic and he's showing me through his own mind what I'm looking at because I don't really have a window or port that I'm looking at. I'm watching it with him in his mind. And it's unbelievable. The color, everything, it's like 7D or 3D. Unbelievable definition of this planet, its rings and its moons, everything around it. I mean, oh my God. And he said, we're going to go through the rings and I'm going to show you how we're going to do that. And I'm thinking, can you do that? And I knew from astronomy lessons that the rings were pretty far apart, okay, and that they're full of all different things. I got to see it for real this time. I got to see the composition of all the different rings, how far things, and that there were still some things floating around in between them, but the gravity and the way they revolved held them in lines, each together in a flat plane, circular. And once we went up and down through the rings a few times, he said, we're going to go up to the pole now. And so I got us all the way up to the top pole, and we were looking at the north pole of the planet straight down. And what I saw was shocking to me because Saturn is a gas giant, okay? And at the top of the planet, I expected to see snow and a lot of gas and stuff, white. It was not. There was an opening in the gases in the form of a chevron. And I was like, how is that possible? And he said, it's the gravity, the way the planet revolves, everything that's circling the planet, and its own gravity from its poles, from its center, its core. I thought that was the coolest thing I'd ever seen in my entire life. And I realized that it's a gas giant, to be sure, but that there was a hardcore planet in there with the gases, okay? It just was expansive and very thick. So it looked solid toward the center, what I was looking down through. It was very, very cool. After I got over myself looking at that, we backed away from the planet again, and we went up high on the right ascension, and I looked down at it again, and you can see that the rings are not straight around its middle like a hula hoop. It's up on its side. The rings are up on their side. And I knew that too, but I didn't understand how dramatic that was when you were there and you were looking at it. Okay. It's really dramatic. He said, okay, we're going to go again, put the wand down. I'm flying us. I'm going to take you somewhere else. I'm like, okay. And I was sitting there. Now this all happened within about an hour and a half. All of that activity that I'm just describing was an hour and a half. Okay. That's how fast they move. We went from Saturn all the way back to Earth and its moon, our moon. And we did what he called the spirograph around it. We did a figure 8 configuration around the planet in the form of a spirograph. So I got to see the moon all the way around, top, bottom, sides, and back, front and back. And I realized that there is a base on the back side of the moon. It's not as big as you think. And there were other things, outcroppings and things like that looked made, but were old. They don't use them anymore. He said they were only using that one. I also saw the moon lander. I saw the flag. I saw the rover. Okay. This was pretty cool. I also realized that they educated me at that time that there were mirrors placed by the Apollo missions when they were on the moon, very distinctly placed. You don't just lay something on the ground there and expect it to stay in the same spot. They had to build a base for it. They had to anchor it in. They had to tilt it a certain way. They had to use lasers and all kinds of stuff to get these mirrors in place for a reason. There was going to be an experiment with it. So I got to see it. It's very cool. I realized then, because I'd heard people talking about, no, this couldn't have happened. Yes, it did happen. My dad worked for NASA. We were all uplinked with NASA. I got to see the moon landings, everything on uplink. Okay, which means I had satellite video that y'all, well, it wasn't really video, it's straight to our TV, but I got to watch that stuff live. And I knew that they were doing it. I also learned a lot more about what they put up there and why, and what they were looking for at that moment. I was taught by Talata, not my dad or anybody else, Talata, because I wouldn't have been told otherwise. When we came back, well, we didn't come back yet. We went to the top. We went up to the north top of the moon, where the line declination is between light and dark, and we landed. It would be about the 10 o'clock position up top. And we were looking back at the Earth, which was in phase. That blew me away. I saw the Earth in phase. Like, there's moon phases. I saw the Earth in phase, and it was unbelievably gorgeous, beautiful. And they had the long talk with me, and they said, is this really something you want to do? This life is different. This life is dangerous. This life is going to afford you an education you never thought you'd have, but it's the hardest thing you'll ever do. And he said, are you up to that? And I said, yes. And he said, okay, well, they explained to me then that I had to be vetted, that they had to make sure I was physically fit enough to do it, that I had the right reflexes, that my psychic ability was up enough for them to work with me on it. And so while they were doing that, it would give me time to really, really consider what I was about to embark on. And when they did, it took about 6 months to clear me for all this. They began my education, and it took me 4 years. At the end of 4 years, it was 2019, and I went out on my first solo flight. And we brought my dad up. My dad got to ride with me on my first solo flight, which was very awesome. It just went on from there. I've participated in ET's contact with humanity. My craft Talata had a area that he worked on. Everybody had their own areas around the planet, different times that they went. I'm one of 3 other pilots. There are 4 of us all together on Talata who fly Talata, because I can't be there 24/7. So I was one of 4. When it was my turn, I mostly flew from the East Coast through to the Midwest, top to bottom. I didn't fly Florida for some reason. They didn't want me flying Florida, but I flew all the way down to Georgia, all the way up to Wisconsin, Minnesota, all the way over to the East Coast as well. But I mostly concentrated on the Midwest. That was my territory. And we would make contact with people, and they would, it was the need to do that is all humanity, because of everything that's happening in our solar system. They were making sure humanity was holding up under it, and they always have. And they would contact you to give you a physical, make sure you're all right. They were looking for people who wanted to fly as well, like me. There are lots, there's probably about 40,000 people who fly with ET from here for the last 40 years that I know about, that I'm privy to. It's an interesting life with them. I've had unbelievable experiences, and the experiences that I had moving up to the moment that I started flying with them were incredible. I mean, I was taken to other planets, other solar systems. I've gone clean across the universe and seen things that's incredible. I learned about energy. I learned everything that I needed to know to be a competent pilot, but I also learned about their society, all the ET societies. I learned what it meant to be among them, and what they were hoping for from us. ET doesn't have an agenda where we're concerned. We are their children. We are related to them, absolutely related to them. And they're just waiting for us to catch up enough to have a conversation with them, and then join with them and and join that way. The people on this planet have been very, very restrictive for that. I mean, humanity has polluted you enough to the point that you can't use your onboard equipment in your own brain. You have a pineal gland in your head. It's supposed to be working perfectly so that your psychic ability is wide open and operating. People were told that there's no such thing, and they made you a demon, or they made you crazy, or nobody's been allowed to really experience what you're perfectly capable of as well as they are, you know.
Can I jump in here real quick?
Sure.
Yeah, I just want to underline a few things. You know, Dolly's describing her experience at age 14. This is one of thousands of experiences she's had, and hundreds before this, where she was taken to their planet and taught all these different subjects. This is when she wasn't quite fully clicking to it. But we just go into depth into the book Symmetry and all these experiences. For example, her experience at age 14, she describes what the interior of the craft looked like, how the little chairs come up, exactly what the room that looks like where she had a light shower, her quarters, there's a sink, there's a bathroom. I mean, there's detail to her story that is impossible to describe in a show like this. And honestly, the book that we published on her case is some 250 pages and barely skims the surface. Because I'm hearing stuff now in these little details that I'm hearing for the first time. This always happens every time she talks, because there is a lot to her story. And I would underline here that, yes, it's an extensive story, but she does have an enormous amount of evidence to back it up. As most contactees do, she has corroborating witnesses. She's got medical evidence, proof of her implant, healings, photographic evidence that's really quite extensive, which came kind of at the last minute when she's like, I'm going to go public. I need something to support my story. I've seen the craft myself. I've been on board, actually, which was fairly recently in all of this. So there is a lot more to the story than people realize. And she's certainly not the only one. Almost everything she tells me, I've heard from other people. It's very piecemeal for the most part. But I know there's a lot of other people out there like her. I'm just saying this because it's important to note that this is something that a lot of people have experienced. And we're now working on Symmetry 2, the sequel, where we're going to, basically explore more of the experiences that she never had a chance to talk about in the first book. But yeah, I could have written an entire book on her experience at age 14. Honestly, I really could have. Just that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was going to say, I have so many questions, Dolly, but I was going to ask you, what about other ET races? Did you ever meet the reptilians or Nordics, or are they real, or what, or in your mind, or in your opinion, or are they?
Okay. All right. Okay, I want to explain something to you first. If you're alive in this universe, you have DNA. Everything has DNA if it's alive.
Yeah.
All our DNA is related. If you look at your body and you string out the DNA, you have the DNA that is literally compromised of all the DNA that's all the way through the universe. You're related to bananas. You're related to bonobo monkeys. You're related to squirrels. You're related to the grass. You're related to the grays. You're related to the Nordic types. You're related to the Anunnaki. Very related to the Anunnaki, by the way. You're related to those who come from the Delphi system. You're related to the ones that you would call the Sirius systems. You're from there. Our universe is vast, and those are the ones that are just close to us. Imagine throughout our entire universe how many galaxies there are, and how many intelligent beings are walking around, and how long they've actually been there. Our universe is vast. We do not call them different races. I've never been taught by ET to think of anything as racially different. We are the same race. We are human. We're Homo sapiens sapien here. They are Homo sapien as well, with a little bit of a difference, a little bit here and there and everywhere. The people that you call reptilians are actually from Earth. They are from here. They've been here as long as the dinosaurs have been here. They're sentient. And I feel bad because they've sort of been shoved to the side. And when the governments of the world found them, they demonized some of them, and others they just outright held on to and used for other things. And now they're I wouldn't even know what to call it now. It's bad. They experiment on them and all kinds of things. ET tried to get their hands on most of them and get them off already, but some of them got left behind, and it's not a pretty picture. Those that there are some that you would think of as an insectoid, and you call them mantids. They have no exoskeleton. They have flesh and bone, just like we do, but their DNA made them look similar to that of a mantis, a praying mantis type. They have shorter arms. I mean, if you look at a Tyrannosaurus Rex, look at the hands and the arms on that guy. It's ridiculous. Okay, we all have different shapes. There's no such thing as a reptilian brain. Okay, other than with in conjunction with us. They say we have a brainstem that comes from reptilians. Everybody has that brainstem. Monkeys have that brainstem. You have that brainstem. Reptilians have that brainstem. We're all animals, and we all have a brain, and our brains are made and configured basically the same way, just different sizes for different reasons and different purposes. Porpoise has one of the biggest brains. Whales have even bigger than that, and they use sound to be able to see underwater, sound things out. So, of course, their equipment's going to have become ethnically changed a little bit to support what they do. We look different only because we come from different ecosystems. If you live in the hot, humid sun all the time, your melanin is going to build up. That's why you're darker. Every single human being on this planet is human. We're not different races. We're just different colors of wheat depending on where we live. That being said, okay, I have met multiple ethnicities of ET throughout our entire universe. There's a lot going on. And I don't want y'all to think of them as different. They are sentient, intelligent, evolved beings who go about doing what they do because they're intelligent enough and evolved enough to do that. One of them is that their morality, their philosophy, and everything like that is so overpowering what we are capable of thinking or doing that you don't understand that they wouldn't harm us for anything. We're their children. They're just watching over us. They're expecting us to evolve here. The universe is complicated. The reasons that you're here in the first place is because all beings, all life comes from one place in this universe. It comes from a source. And we come out into different classrooms all over the universe to learn different things so that we evolve, we ascend, we become wise so that we can employ knowledge in wisdom. You can't do that just being a source. You can't, it's like being an educated idiot. You can know everything and not understand how it works or what's the reason for it. We come out to learn those things: morality, philosophy, mathematics. We need to assume and learn everything so that we can employ all those things and then become wise. There's a reason for that. All of us want to ascend so that we kind of catch up with the being that brought this to us. And the ET calls it the All Mind. You call it God, okay? And if you want to have a conversation with that being, you need to come up to his level. We're just at the beginning of the pile right now, here, this classroom. Doesn't mean you don't know everything on the other side in source. You do. But here, you're limited to what you can learn while you're here. This is a classroom that is out of control. It has no self-control over itself at all. We're warlike. We have bad manners. We hate each other. We do things that are terrible and awful here. And we don't use our abilities to talk to our higher consciousness, which is trying to tell you what to do. Your body isn't you. It's a vehicle which you're in to do what you have to do here in this place. And when this body dies, you go on to do other things and reassume your DNA somewhere else. It's there's a lot to learn. And I don't know, when I came out, I wanted everybody to know the truth. I don't want anybody to leave this planet now under any circumstances without hearing the truth, period. Because I think that's what's going to turn and help you to understand that there's more to this. More, you need to not just listen to what I say to you, but prove to yourself that what I say to you is possibly true. Okay? Learn to learn. Learn to tell yourself what the truth is and figure it out for yourself. You learn to employ what that is. You get wise from that. Everybody on this planet is responsible. Every one of us is an autonomous individual. And this is what ET taught me, period.
Yeah,
I want...
Dolly came out not to convince people of the veracity of her story, but to share the information she's learned. And all these things she's saying, I agree. It's up to us to figure it out. Because having interviewed hundreds of people who've had these kinds of experiences, it's become very clear to me why people are being taken on board. And definitely healing is a big part of it. When someone's being laid out and examined, this is when they get all scared and freaked out. But honestly, this is when a lot of them get healed. Dolly goes into detail about this. And you can see exactly the sequence of events. Dolly has had them, and I've heard them many times. They're taken down to the engine room. They explain very clearly how they power the craft, how they are not using fossil fuels as we do, but I hear this in case after case, they're basically harnessing the magnetic field lines of our planet. But they go through this whole process, and Dolly's talking about, how important it is for us to psychically evolve and wake up. This is what the ETs are really concerned about. They're very concerned about our use of nuclear materials in any capacity. They've explained this to her. They explain this to almost all contactees. And they're very concerned about war and aggression. They're very concerned that we are not clicking to all the potentials we have of telepathy, which is how they communicate almost universally, but clairvoyance and remote viewing and out-of-body experiences, healing abilities. All of this stuff is a natural human condition that we have been sort of dumbed out of. So all these things Dolly is saying is stuff I've heard over and over again. And it's so important because the way that contact experience is being portrayed in the media is very negative. And also there's an enormous amount of fear and confusion surrounding the subject, which is really not warranted. It shouldn't be that way. This is why Dolly came forward, because she was horrified to see the way this subject was being portrayed. It's not accurate. I came to that conclusion long before I met Dolly. So it was really awesome to hear her explain all these experiences in a very conscious way, not through the lens of fear, not recalled through hypnosis, but fully consciously.
Yeah, I was going to say, it seems like the government has an agenda, and that we could talk about the cover-up, Preston, that's been going on, and why they promote certain things. A lot of times that goes along with these UFO hearings. They push the notion of fear, like, are the UFOs a threat to us? That you hear them say that a lot. That I think they've even called, like, what, a UFO threat narrative.
It's the national security threat. Period. Yeah. Worldwide national security threat. That's what they call it. Blue Alexander uses that. Exactly. Yeah.
There is an ET threat, but the only ET threat is to them and their power structure, their control over humanity, their false narrative, their lies. That's the threat. That they will lose all their money, all their control, all their power. That's what they're really terrified of. People learning the truth, waking up, and
it's not ET threatening them. It's them feeling threatened. That's the point. They're paranoid.
Yeah.
So that's why they push this narrative, and that's why there's been the cover-up for all these years.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, it's worse than that. There's MyLabs too. There are people who have genuinely negative experiences that are not ET. And here's the problem. Most of these people who have MyLabs are real contactees with real experiences where the government jumped in and muddied the water to an extent that it's very hard to understand, which is the ET experience and which is not. It's a real, honest to God problem here.
Right. Now they have AI, and AI can recreate anything and make you believe anything it wants you to believe. And unless you're educated enough to see that or hear it or understand that, you're gullible to them. They don't need a whip to make you do what they want. Now they can con you into it easily. So.
Yeah.
I think you're froze, Rob.
They do with MyLabs and other, people who are like targeted individuals and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So sorry, Preston, go ahead.
No, I was just saying we couldn't hear you for a second. You froze up.
Yeah.
Oh, I was saying it seems like they have even like V2K, which is that, voice to God technology that they can put in the heads of MyLabs and other targeted individuals. And it seems like they target contactees Do you guys feel this way? Do you feel this is something what's going on?
It's not that I feel this way. I know bloody well why they're doing it. Even they're creating that chip because they're trying to make you psychic with a chip. In other words, they're going to use you to be able to fly one of their craft because they've got a few of them. They're being held, okay? And you couldn't fly it if you wanted to unless you were psychic. And since they dumbed everybody down from that, they have to artificially implant you to get you to be psychic enough to run one. Funny thing is when you're wide open psychic like ET is, they can hear all the truth of this. They know who's who and what's what and why is why. And they would never, ever, ever, ever give anybody control over a craft for any reason unless they trained you to it, period. Only their people fly their craft, period. You otherwise you are not allowed. And so I don't know why they're doing it, unless also this could be that they've come far enough in their their back engineering to approximate how one of the craft are run, and now they're trying to find somebody who's smart enough to actually embody or indwell the craft to fly it with somebody else who's chipped. See what I'm saying? It's getting crazier and crazier. And I've been told that they will never be able to do that because the light technology involved in that is way beyond anything they're capable of doing. And it's amazing. I also know that they're trying to open a light gate, okay? And you can't do that without a certain amount of computer power. They've built computers now that are approximating, getting closer to that. AI is part of that as well, okay? And they want to try to do that because if they can get out of this dimension, they can go to other systems. They can leave here. And that is an agenda of theirs because they know what's coming at us and they're trying to find a way off because they know ET will not help them. They will not let them spread their anger, their evil, and their stupidity anywhere else. They've been told, you're going to stay here until you grow up. And that's kind of infuriating for them, you know?
This may be a touchy subject, but not really. I just want to get you guys' opinion. Like, what do you guys feel about the secret space program? Do you feel like there is one? And if there is, like, what do you think they have going on? Or how much do you think is like disinformation and all that stuff?
Most of it.
90% of it's misinformation, BS. They have a space program. They have to because we've learned how to send rocket ships into space to come down somewhere else. And they need vehicles in space now that can put them out of their misery before they come down and get us. They can send a nuclear device from America, probably to Russia, and under 2 minutes by going to space with it and then coming down. And they have vehicles now that can probably do it. They can do better than Mach 4 and get up out of the atmosphere. And so, everything. I want you to consider this. Everything that's ever learned here is weaponized. There isn't a single solitary advancement that hasn't been used against others in a weapon, as a weapon, okay? That's completely crazy to me. Why would you do that? Why wouldn't you let humanity just thrive and enjoy the fruits of what those advances are together, working together, instead of saying, this is my territory, that's your territory, and if you don't cut it out, I'm going to put you off the earth so that I can take your territory too. It's the worst emotionally childish thing I can think of. And we're all doing it, everybody. Because by letting them, by sitting back and not stopping them, everybody's in agreement with it. Think about that. You know?
It puts us in a really tough situation because how do you fight something like that? Yeah, there is a secret space program. It's the people who are flying these reverse engineered craft. But keep in mind that while we have reverse engineered technology, and we know this, we know that much of the technology we see here in the public arena is far, far behind what our military has. It really is. But if you look at the whistleblower accounts from people who have been involved in crash retrievals, they're talking about craft that they still can't even get inside. They're talking about craft where they try to remove technology from it and it goes right back in. They are now, this is what I thought was really interesting because this did come out in the congressional hearings and they've never talked about this, which Dolly has been saying for a long time, and many contactees have been telling me that these craft are what we would think of as alive, embodied. This came out in the congressional hearings with, Admiral Gallaudet and Lula Elizondo and the others. They, was it Representative Mace or Senator Mace who asked that? I forget, but one of them did. I thought, wow, that is super interesting that this information is coming out.
They had to, because there were enough contactees saying it, they couldn't get away from it anymore. They had to admit it. That's why. Okay, I'm not
Yeah,
the
but
only
we
country.
still don't know hardly
Yeah.
anything about how these craft work. At least when I say we, the military doesn't. I mean, Dolly herself doesn't fully understand their technology. It's beyond her. These guys are 1 billion years in advance. They explain a lot to her, but we don't understand how truly advanced these people are within the UFO community. When I say people, I mean the ETs, because this is how contactees look at them. Often when I'm interviewing Dolly, she's like, oh, this guy, that guy, and she's talking about ETs. I'm like, wait, when you're saying this person, are you talking about a gray here? It gets confusing.
Everybody's a people to me. Everybody's a person. I'm talking about this person and that person. It doesn't matter where you are, you're a person. I can't fly the craft like Talada does. He indwells that craft. He's an advanced fifth dimensional being who indwells that craft. That craft was made to be a physical body for him, so that he comes from the fifth dimension into here to fly here. And I don't have those abilities at all. I wouldn't even be able to understand it. I mean, I have an idea. I can sort of talk about it to you. I understand the basics of it, but that's all I got. I can't do what Talada does. I can do what I do. I know how to do what I do at my level. And that's the point. There are different levels of advancement, and we're on the very bottom rung of it here. And we've had 200, 300, 400,000 years to develop ourselves in a way that we would be meeting that ability and working with them by now. But nope, we didn't do it. I want to know why. I want to know who it was that decided that that was a bad idea. I want to know what mental disorder made it important to enslave humanity, and they survive and nobody else does. That's what I want to know.
Well, we know it goes way back. The Tower of Babel is a very interesting story that I think does have truth in it, where we used to be telepathic, and then that fell apart. We started developing languages, religion, greed. I mean, this goes way, way back. All the misunderstandings. So corruption.
Yeah, I was going to say, Preston, I agree with you about the Tower of Babel. It seems like they tried to. That was the point where they tried to separate all the languages, right? And that's it. But it seemed like humanity was trying to build It says humanity in the Tower of Babel story that humanity was, or somebody was trying to build a tower, right? Like they were trying to escape this reality almost. It makes me think like I don't know, or maybe we were advancing too far.
Being psychic back then was real. Okay, people weren't told not to be psychic. It was encouraged back then. And they knew that there was an all mind, and they were trying to touch the mind of the all mind. They wanted to have a conversation. They were wanting to ascend and be taught. Okay. Now the liars will tell you, no, that's not true. It is true. They were trying to ascend. They got knocked down, but not by God. They got knocked down by themselves. Somebody didn't want them to have that ability. They saw them ascending and they went, nope, you can't. I'm going to get there before you do. And they stopped them. And all of a sudden, nobody can speak the same language. They started, and it didn't happen overnight. It happened over time. Okay. People were lied to, and they were separated from one another. There was mass killings going on back then. And it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy to me that there's something in this dimension, in this planet system, that is that adverse to the truth and wanting control over everything. It's terrible.
Do you think that's all human, Tully, or do you think there's a negative ET agenda, or do you think there's all the ETs are good?
All of them are good. There are other planets in this galaxy, and not in our galaxy as well, but throughout the universe, that are on the same level with us, but they can't leave their planets and come here either. They're not ascended. They're not technologically advanced enough to get here, and they're going through the same thing we are. There are pockets of us in classrooms like this one having to learn the things that we're learning. You got to put that in your head. You're not here for any other reason, period, except to learn. And whatever this classroom is offering, that's what you're here to learn. And if you don't get it, you're going to come back over and over and over again until you do. That's what karma is. There are other places in the universe where you could have gone already from source, where you were a lot more ascended and learning that, but you're still coming back here because you're still missing something here. ETs are not violent. They're not cruel. They're not evil. Those that are ascended enough and advanced enough do not come here to do evil to you. The only idiots are us, period. We're the authors of all of this here, period.
Yeah, I think we have a tendency to project our own fears, the way we treat each other onto, we're basically trained to fear strangers and assume that they're going to do us harm Because they do many times, because this is how we've been trained to interact with each other.
Right.
Would you call humanity a benevolent species? Think about that. A benevolent people, I should say.
People of this planet, are we all calm and benevolent and love one another?
I think given the right circumstances, we would be. I am an optimist. I believe in the goodness of people. And I think most people, given the opportunity to do the right thing, would. But we're now in a place where we're all fighting for survival. There's a lot of divisiveness. There's a lot of corruption. There's a lot of greed. There's a lot of negativity that we're mired in. And I think, as Dolly says, it makes perfect sense that there would be other planets out there who are still struggling to develop. But think about it. If you are a people who has the ability to basically travel anywhere in the universe, are you going to come all the way to Little Earth to basically scare the living daylights out of people? Why? Why would you do that?
Yeah.
For dollies, for resources? I mean, none of this makes any sense. What does make sense is...
Yeah, the universe is rich. You just got to learn to see it for what it really is. I will tell you something. Everything in the universe is interesting to me, because in the third dimension, the third dimensional part of the universe, which we're employing right now, we're all here to learn here in the whole third dimension, all the way across the universe, is that it's gravity heavy. You can't see that you're a being of light, even in this body. Every proton in your body is light. It actually emits light. You just so densely packed together that your eyeballs can't see it. You haven't been taught to understand or employ that ability with light in yourself physically. That's a big one, and we should have all been on that level by now. We have the ability to perceive that and understand it. There are people who can teach themselves these things, and have throughout our history on this planet, have come to those realizations and actually achieved that. But the rest of the people are just too busy being involved in a waste of time activity, and that's pretty sad. And if I could tell you one thing, and I'm going to read it to you, because if I don't, Colin would be mad at me. Now that I'm thinking about it, he told me to write something down once. He said, "This is one of the most important things that you can say to humanity. It's so important. You have to." I'm like, okay. And he made me write it down. He did not want me to lose it. He wanted me to put it in the book Symmetry. All right. It's called Be Strong in Love. This is written by Talata, word for word. Okay. Love is what carries through. Love is what heals. Love is the strength of life. Love has no limit. Therefore, let love become who you are. Let love evolve to its fruition. Let the light that is love burn bright. Let its wisdom guide you to higher understanding. Let its power move you to teach its power to others. Love. Be strong in love. That is the very first thing that ET wants us to get. They want us to get that, because without understanding what that means, we're helpless to ourselves even. We have to understand that we are all the same. We're here for the same reasons. We're supposed to helping one another. And you can't do that without love. Love is the power of the universe, literally. We're here because of love, because there's an all mind out there that decided to, in love, give us this life and let us live and evolve to meet it as well. Without love, you're helpless. You can't learn to respect. You can't learn to see that you're supposed to be helping. You can't learn to understand that there are things that we do every day in this life now among all our people that are a total obliterating waste of time. We're so narcissistic in our thinking that now narcissism has become one of the biggest flashwords on our planet. And it's a disease among us because we don't know how to love. That's important. That's number one.
One of the chapters in Symmetry is called Gathering the Children. Dolly has been on board, and people are taken on board, and they will attack her. They will attack the ETs. They've broken the arm of an ET. She watches happen. And I know of other cases. We react very quickly with this sort of real, honest to God, fear, violence, panic.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. And also, I was going to say, what do you think is going on with Project Bluebeam? If you guys want to talk about that, do you feel like that's something that they're going to try to do with this new AI holographic technology?
Yes. If they already have it, it's 12D. They can make you think right in front of you that something is whole, solid, and real right in front of you.
Yeah, we see some of this already. You can see billboards in various large cities like Hong Kong or Japan or wherever, where a whale or something or a person will come right out of a billboard. And there's a very famous video that you can see online of a whale in a gymnasium.
Yeah, they went into all the school systems and showed it to the kids. I mean, it's crazy. They've been doing this for a long time, and yet nobody, like, internalizes that knowledge. They can put a front up for you to make you think it's real, and they're very good at it. Very good at it.
Yeah, I'm very concerned about fake ET invasion. And there are some incidents down in South America which are very negative, and people often point to them as evidence of ET hostility. And if you look at some of the main researchers who've looked into some of these incidents, like the Coley incident in Brazil, which is often cited, it's quite likely not ET. People aren't even seeing ETs in that incident. It's all these craft flying around, sending down beams of light that burn people horrifically. Probably a precursor to Project Bluebeam or a fake ET invasion, whatever you want to call it.
Well, since the 80s, we know that we have the technology to send a laser beam from space and hit a target on Earth as easily as 1, 2, 3. They can target you specifically and hit you and vaporize you in seconds. And they've known how to do that since the 80s. Literally, it's not a joke. It's real. We're so compartmentalized.
I got a question. I'm sorry. Sorry, go ahead, Dolly. I'm sorry.
No.
You. I'm sorry.
Ask me the question. I'm listening to you in my head. Go ahead. You're asking a good one. Go for it.
Okay, so a couple years ago, it was on Coast to Coast AM and it was in other places. It was a big story. It came out in our community. Let's put it that way. In our community, it was a big story about these attacks that were going on in Peru by these so-called face peelers, and a lot of the evidence looked fake, you know what I mean? But then they said on Coast to Coast that Timothy Alberino, he's a Christian UFO researcher, went down to Peru and he was investigating these attacks. And I didn't know what to think of it. I try to have an open mind about everything, but I just wanted to see if you guys heard about that and what you thought about it. Like if it wasn't ET, maybe it was some entities or something, or if it was like, the government, playing tricks on people, or, yeah.
Well, one of the main witnesses did say that she heard them talking and that they had an American accent, which, here's the way I look at it. It's what we call an outlier. This is not the type of event that most people report. If you talk to a few people about their experiences, you get an incomplete picture. If you talk to 10 or 20, it starts to get a bigger picture. But if you talk to hundreds, you start to realize, okay, there's a real pattern, and some are complete outliers. And even in statistical studies, they will throw out anything that's completely off the charts. You can see this in the Olympics. The lowest score gets thrown away, and so does the highest, to get an average of what is true. So I think we have to take a very careful, objective look at some of these stories that are completely wacky.
I understand that in South America, they have bonobos, they have chimpanzees and things like that. There are monkeys that are powerful enough to peel your face off, and they do. And when they attack humans, they will grab you by the face first. They will bite your face and clean off your face. We have it in America too, where people have them as pets and they lose their face to them. It's a common thing. Okay. You can take a story like that and swing it and swivel it and spin it any bloody way you want. And I think that's what's going on. It's a natural thing that happens here. And they just decided to, hey, let's spin it this way. Instead of telling you the truth that they got a troop of monkeys out there that are going after human beings and they need to deal with it. Now they're spinning it this way. It's a convenient con. One little teeny bit of truth. There are humans that lost their face today, and then they spin it into that. If ETs were really doing that, nobody in any country on this planet would have already sounded the alarm. You know what I'm saying? It wouldn't be a con. It would be real. People would have already been notified. You would have been briefed on it. It would have become a national incident all the way across the board. And it's not. And you have to understand that they're getting ready to pull one on you because we're getting ready to some real interesting things going on in our solar system. and we're heading toward them, and they are going to send you down a path that you're not going to come back from. And it's literally because we're at the end of a cycle with our sun and our solar system. We're also sleuthing through a part of our galaxy that has got an electromagnetic current sheet that is monstrously big, and we're all reacting to it through that current sheet. All our poles are changing. Every planet in our system's poles are changing. Our sun's poles change when it hit us. The only one that didn't is Mars, and Mars has no poles. So it's just sitting there, being affected by all the gamma radiation coming in. 88 years ago now, our magnetosphere started dropping. We're 40% down. The gamma radiation coming in on us is huge. It's causing our DNA to deraz, and we're starting to see things, even for the last 70 years, where more problems with disease are happening, more autoimmune disorders, more heart disorders, more mental disorders. I mean, it's unbelievably bad. Cancer off the charts, because our DNA is suffering from this. Instead of telling you the truth about it and helping everybody figure out how to protect yourselves during this time period, everybody is just falling apart and going to pieces. And they know this. Those that know it are protecting themselves from it, and they dug underground. They think they're going to survive it. If you see vaults around the planet in the cold places where they can do it, they have AI to help them do everything they can to control us. And the false flag is literally going to be you not being here anymore. And there are politicians who state it outright, world leaders around the world who say, humanity, there are too many of us, we need to call the herd. They're not joking around, and it already began. It began 50 years ago. If you look at the populations in Africa alone, they're decimated. Whole genocides going on in that continent. Think about it. Okay?
Yeah.
Communism came about.
It goes back farther than that. The Irish potato famine that killed so many people didn't need to happen. There was enough food.
Right.
I mean, there really was.
Yeah.
The Ukrainian terror famine. There was a famine in China that killed a whole lot of people in the 1970s.
I was just going to say, don't try not to say the C word or the thing that went in people's arms a couple of years ago, because they suspended me for that multiple times.
Okay.
But, it seems like they do have these incidents that happen, and let's talk about this. Are there ways to protect ourselves from because what's interesting? I picked when you said something, I really picked up on it. Like when I had a psychic on the other night, she had question after question about people with autoimmune diseases. Like everybody kept asking her how to help their autoimmune disease. I was like, wow. I was like, why do all these people have autoimmune diseases?
Because your DNA
it was strange to me.
Not solid. They've been experimenting on human beings because of it, because they've been trying to figure out if they could fix it. They cannot. And it's caused even more problems with that. Your DNA is very fragile. NASA sent an astronaut up. He had an identical twin brother astronaut here. That one brother went up for a little over a year. He came back. Their DNA no longer matched. His DNA had derased just enough to make him different. And he's still recouping from that, by the way. And they know that everybody they send in space is going to have that happen to them. And yet they lie to you and say, oh, let's go to Mars. Let's do that. Not true. That's misinformation and disinformation. They're just trying to get you to believe it so they get money from you to keep digging underground and doing what they got to do to survive and let us all not make it. Period.
This explains why contactees, the whole phenomenon is generational. ETs are basically sustaining our genetics as best as they can. This is why people are being pulled on board. This is why they're collecting the genetics of all plants and animals, because we're in real trouble here. And yes, there are things you can do. You can start by very carefully looking at the food you eat. If you go to the store and you look at the ingredients, some of them are biogenetically engineered.
Yeah.
Probably not a good idea to eat those. Go organic. Yeah. Don't eat fluoride, because this is gumming up your pineal gland.
Yeah.
There are things.
It's also a neurotoxin, right? I think fluoride. I'd say it's actually a neurotoxin, right?
Your pineal gland is in your brain, and yes, it's a neurological neurotoxin, and it calcifies your pineal gland. Literally calcifies it. I want you to understand something. The reason that we can't say certain things online right now is because we're all being watched. We're all being listened to by them, and they are now changing. They're controlling what we're allowed to say and not say, because they absolutely do not want the truth to come out about anything. And we're being pushed apart from that so that only they have something to say. They're rhetorics. They got truth fact checkers. That was a joke to me. That was an unbelievable joke. These people don't know what they're doing. This is crazy. What was the book? 1984 came out way back when, and it was a precursor of
Orwell.
what
Yeah.
yeah, Orwell. He was thinking more communism, but he didn't realize that it's way bigger than that, way bigger. And yeah, there are things that I won't say openly here because I know it'll get us knocked off and you knocked off. I'm not going to do it. So the only thing that we can do, Preston, me, you, and anybody else who's telling the truth, is to get everybody to think about what's happening. Go for science. If you don't believe me about what's going on in our solar system, look it up. It's out there for you to find. There are plenty of people online talking about it. One guy specifically, Ben Davidson, at Suspicious Observers. And they're going to get ready to knock him off too because he tells the truth. Guy's genius. He's a smart boy. And he knows what he's talking about. There are other astronomers out there. Dr. Robitaille, Sky Scholar. He's out there talking about what's happening. This is serious stuff. And people have been downgraded educationally so that it's really hard for you to conceptualize this. That's why I say, learn everything you can. Start looking this up. Prove what I say to you one way or another to yourself so that you know the truth.
Yeah, education is our single best tool to fight what's going on right now. And what's great about educating yourself is this can reduce the fear, because honestly, fear is caused by not knowing. It's the unknown that people really fear. And if you can move into direct knowledge and just allow love and truth to guide your actions, you're going to be a lot better off. Recognize the fact that we are, in fact, immortal. We're eternal. We truly are. A lot of people, their lives are guided by fear of death. So one thing you can really do to move past that is to learn astral projection. I teach people how to do this. It's not, I can send anyone a little 2-3 page guide. I will talk you through it. I will answer any questions you have. Send me an email, prestonufo@gmail.com. And you can do astral projection literally overnight. A lot of people are that lucky. It's not hard to do. It does, there's a learning curve certainly for some people, because there's, basically fear and laziness and skepticism. Things like this are the main obstacles. But if you can do that, you're way ahead of the game, because you can move past fear, and that changes everything. It will change if you're having encounters and they're very negative, you can actually start to really move past that.
It'll also help you gain your ability. Turn the volume up on your psychic ability. Literally turn it up. So
yeah, I remember, Preston, you've been talking about try to help people get out of body since you did that. I mean, I know it's probably been before this, but I remember I first heard you talk about it in 2015 on Art Bell, when you did Art Bell's Midnight in the Desert. You did that show specifically on out of body experiences, and and so I mean that was one of the shows that like kind of inspired me to try to start having out of body experiences. I tried, I couldn't get to like, I would only get to like the body vibrational state. I couldn't get past that. Is there a way to get past that? Like, or do you know what I'm talking about? Where you get to, your body starts vibrating and it feels like you're about to go out of body, but I wasn't. I just, for whatever reason, I couldn't.
It's a very important stage, and you're there. If you're feeling that, what we call the vibratory state, you're primed, you're ready to go. And most people have felt this when you're in bed and suddenly you jerk real violently, or you feel like a rushing feeling of rising up or falling down. You're already doing this. That's one thing you need to recognize.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're already going out of bodies. So if you reach the vibratory state, the best thing you can do is celebrate, relax, enjoy it, because this is when fear comes rushing into a person, and it will stop an experience quicker than anything. Fear will absolutely stop the experience. So just allow it to happen and let go. You really, really want to relax to the point where you don't see the environment around you anymore and you turn inward. Because in a weird, ironic way, going out of body is a process of going inward. It really is. You have the universe within you. And we have this idea that, we're individuals and there's an outside world, because there is. But the truth is, we're inextricably connected with the outside world. And going out of body is a process of sort of recognizing that. Yeah, if you can get to the vibratory state, just turn inward, let go, and visualize yourself flying upwards. Yeah. Anything involving movement will do it.
Don't think about anything else. Just like Preston says, let yourself go. Don't think I'm going to do it. Just do it. Let go of everything else and just leave. Go. You'll leave.
Yep.
That's
Just keep.
fascinating.
You have to keep
Yeah.
trying. It does take effort. It's not going to
Yeah.
happen if you like just want to do it. You have to actually intend to do it.
Yeah.
And one of the
Don't think
easiest
you're gonna
ways.
jump out. Yeah. Yeah. Don't think you're gonna jump out into the middle of the universe somewhere, okay? Stand next to your own bed. Okay. When you come out, just stand there and take everything in. Little steps. Okay. Look at your room, look at your bed, look at yourself. Do little things to confirm to yourself that it's actually happening. Okay. Little steps. You don't learn to walk right away. You gotta crawl first, right? So little steps.
Spend
And
5 minutes each night not doing anything but meditating right before bed, saying, and you're intending to do it. Like, tonight I'm going to do it. Tonight I'm going to do it. Relax, relax, relax. Go through all your muscle groups. Spend 5 minutes, because people don't actually take the time to meditate.
Right.
And you really do need to do that if you want to be successful at this.
Yeah.
The more effort you put forth, the more you focus on it. Focus is probably a better word than effort, because it's effortless. Really just focus on and intend to do it. Imagine doing it. We discount imagination, like, oh, it's just your imagination.
no, it's not.
I wouldn't do that. Imagination is very powerful. Your ability to visualize is crucial to doing this. Visualize yourself going out of body. It's really that easy. It took me about a month and a half of doing meditation to have my first OBE, and I never looked back from it. Anyone can do this. It's not hard.
Right. You learn to walk, you learn to ride a bike, you learn to give yourself a bath. You can do this. It's all natural stuff. You can do it.
Yeah, and then I was going to say, Dolly, is there any? Do you know of any supplements that people can take to like that help with like this gamma radiation that we're experiencing, or is it just like, is it more all in one food?
It is. Okay, you remember how people used to sit on the streets with tin hats on, aluminum hats, and they used to make terrible fun of them and say they're crazy. And these people are telling you, I can hear things, and this is my only way of not hearing it. They thought they were nuts. They were treated like they were crazy. They had the right bloody idea. You can go on Amazon and Google Faraday blanket, Faraday hat, and it will pop right up, and that will protect you from gamma radiation hitting you from the sun. Our sun pops off in flares. We have CMEs all the time. We have coronal hole streams, we have flares, and this will protect you from that kind of radiation hitting us at this time. You go buy them, put one on your head. It's a nice ball cap, or a winter hat, like a knitted hat, but they're lined in silver threads. The blankets, the Faraday blankets, are very heavy because they're full of silver, and that will protect you from that radiation. I have one that I wear for a winter coat. No kidding, it's got a hoodie on it and everything. Do what you got to do.
Wow. That's awesome. Okay, I was going to say, do we have time to maybe we could take a couple questions from the audience?
Sure.
Yes.
Okay.
So you guys.
Yeah, there's been a lot of questions. So you guys heard everything that Dolly and Preston said. The people in Nicole's chat, and then in my chat, if you want, you can start putting your questions in the audience. I see that there's a lot of people in both chats, so I'll try to get to all your questions. One of the first ones I saw, Preston, was somebody asked about the fact that you did do Art Bell back in the day. What was your experience like with that and meeting Art, and how did it go in your mind?
Oh, mind you, I tried to get on that show for decades before I was finally invited to it. So I actually did his show 3 times, once on out-of-body experiences, once on human levitation, and once on USOs. And he was the most popular radio show in the world at that time. Not just UFOs, the most popular show in the world. So, I mean, what a treat is that? He's an honest-to-God pro. He's a really nice guy. It's an amazing experience because he was basically the epitome of all the podcasts on this subject. I mean, he taught us all how to do it. So, yeah, it was great. It was fun. He's hilarious. When I was talking about out-of-body experiences, he got all shy and was like, oh, then, that seems scary to me. He asked me once, is it a conspiracy that we should not go to the light and that's just going to trap your soul or something? That knocked me over. I'm like, what? I had to track that down to a known disinformation artist who was the one who said that. I know who he is. I'm not going to name him. He recently passed not too long ago. But no, it's not true. Everything on the other side is composed of light. Everything here is made of light. There's no way you can escape, quote, the light. But yeah, I love talking with Art. it took a lot of effort to get on that show. A lot of people recommended me before I got on.
Yeah, I'd love to hear the one you did on USOs. Like because I listen to old art shows, and that would be amazing. That's yeah, I'll look for that because I know you can find the old episodes somewhere. Like
You're archived. Yeah.
Yeah. This one's from Boopster. She says, "What do you guys think of the past and upcoming resets?"
And what? Say that again.
She says, "What do you guys think about the past and upcoming resets?"
Oh,
Reset.
Yeah.
Yeah, like like civilization resets, like past resets if we've had any, and if we have any upcoming ones.
We are okay. I want you to get that word. It's a bad word. It's a misinformation word. Quit thinking it. It's not going to happen like that. Every 12,000 years, we have, because of our planet and our solar system and the way we go around through our galaxy, we go through this electromagnetic current sheet, and it causes all our poles to change, and our sun starts popping off CMEs. It grounds the grids and knocks us off our civilizations. Then we have a 6,000 year event where we have a micronova, and it flops our planet over or upwards. We go up or down, and it causes a water event. Well, every now and then they happen simultaneously. It has been happened a lot. We know of 7 iterations on our planet. We have stuff left behind that they figured out. There's 7 of them that they know about. There's actually 18 that I know about. Göbekli Tepe is one of them that has all 18 iterations of these cycles. The cycle we're in right now is both of them happening simultaneously. So right now we're getting ready for a sun to pop off a CME during our grid down, our magnetosphere is down 40%. We have an X-class event that's over 30, closing in on 100. It's enough to ground our grids down to nothing. Everything metal on this planet is going to burn or melt, period, 10 miles deep straight into the core of this planet. It's not pretty. We have that coming at us. It can happen anytime, literally anytime. We're overdue for it, which is amazing to me. But it's like from the moment I just said it and into the near future, like within a year or so, we're going to have this event happen. And nobody here is ready except the idiots who know what's going on. And that's the ones that want us off the planet. We will have a water event after that, soon after that, because our sun will micronova, because as we slice through this electromagnetic current sheet, it's full of dust and particles and stuff that's accumulating on the surface of our sun, and our sun's going to go and spit it all out. You want to know why we have so many crater attacks on this planet? Why the dinosaurs died? From our sun micronovaing. They don't tell you the truth about that. Okay, it's true. This is serious stuff. You should have known about it your entire life, but you don't, because they don't want you to know. And I'm this close to getting my butt kicked off the air just for saying that much. What I would tell you is prepare. Learn to live off grid. Learn to live sustainably. Learn to have enough food for a year or two and enough water availability for a year or two. Because when it happens, how many people are on this planet? 8.4 billion people. When that CME hits us and it takes down our grids, that means every nuclear plant on this planet is going to melt down. How many people are going to die from that alone? Want to know why ET doesn't like nuclear for us? That's number one. Number one. And these guys know it. Here, the last nuclear event we had in Japan, they started to melt down. What did it do? Everything alive was affected all around it. They were able to help it not totally melt down, but it can't. One of their generators did. It affected the water. It's killed thousands and thousands of marine life in the Pacific Ocean. People are dying from the cancers that it's caused, everything. Look what happened in Russia. You can't have a backup generator working if the grid goes down because the generator's going with it. I don't like nuclear proliferation, period. Bombs or energy savers. I think they're lost their minds. And ET does too. They tried to warn us over and over and over about it, but they weren't listening. They didn't want to hear it.
In a good way, this is kind of good news because we're in an unsustainable pathway. And here's something that everyone needs to be aware of. There's not a government on this planet that hasn't fallen.
Right.
It's constant change. It's constant reset. Look it up. It's chilling. We here in the United States have a government that's about 240, 250 years old. It's the longest surviving constitutional democracy on this planet.
Yeah.
all governments fall. Every one of them has revolutions. All of them. We're going to have a reset. We're this close. I mean, we're
Right.
seeing
The only
signs of
reset
this
that
right
you know
now.
about, the biggest reset that you're aware of, is all the dinosaurs dying at one time. That's a reset. That was a micronova that hit our planet and killed them dead. Dead. Okay. Everything on the surface of the planet took hits you wouldn't believe. We went into a polar ice age planet wide. It took thousands and thousands of years just to even come out of that. This is serious stuff. And it's happened multiple times since the time of the dinosaur. You know, they can't, radiocarbon dating is funny to me because it's not accurate. They can't tell you the truth. The pyramids are over 14,000 years old, minimum. Okay. They leave all these monuments around trying to send us the message this is happening. The reason they won't dig up Göbekli Tepe right now is because of that, because each level that they go to is another iteration of that, proven, showing what gets affected and why. 18 of them in the last millennia and millennia and millennia. Nobody's going to come down here and save you from anything. You are not going to evolve into another iteration or another dimension. This is hard school here. You have a body that has physical limitations, and when you're done with it, you're done with it, and you move on. That's a reset. You're done here, you're going to go somewhere else. And it's individual. Each one of us has a lifespan here, and we're coming up on one where a lot of us are going to take that span and end it and go somewhere else. That's what's happening. That's the truth. That's how it works in the third dimension.
Which is good news for us.
Right. Yeah. I mean, honestly and truly, I don't plan on coming back here ever again. This is the last school I'm going to do here teaching, or otherwise I'm done, because it's
being
hard
stuck
here.
in the third dimension would be a big problem for a lot of people. We're very lucky that we actually pass on.
Yeah.
I was gonna say it really is hard here. I know a lot of people who say that too. They're like, I don't want to come back here. You know I don't. I honestly do not. I mean, it's always always something. You know, if it's not one thing, it's another. You know, and it's just like I feel like it's torture. I feel like it's like I know you're gonna say this is disinformation, but I'm not trying to mean disinformation, but I feel like it's something in this like reality or matrix itself that like knows what we're gonna do, and then it messes with us. I don't know.
Right.
I can't explain
reality.
it.
It's the evil. It's you. Okay. Well, we chose all this anyway. I mean, a human being can become blind, bad, evil. You know that we've seen it happen before our very eyes. We have proof. There's Hitler. There's Napoleon. You know, there's Mussolini. There's a lot of people on this planet that became monsters. They didn't go anywhere good. Trust me, they gave up their existence for that. They stupidly gave up their existence because negativity cannot survive in our universe. Our universe is a positive, light-filled universe. And if you're going to be dark, the dark's going to go away. And if you practice it in the body here, like in this third dimension, you're giving everything up. And they don't realize that. It's stupid, stinking thinking. It's crazy. And you're right. There's a lot of crazy here. And I just am dissociated from it. I want nothing to do with it anymore. And that's why I want to not come back to it. We're done. I'm done.
I feel the same way. To change up the questions a little bit, this is from Adrian Unleashed. And I don't have control. I usually put the questions on the screen, but Nicole has Nicole has the thing. I next time I'll have to do it from mine. But she says, it says, do ETs have skills like woodworking, art skills, or musical instrument skills? And thank you for your question, Adrian.
Sure, they can do anything we can do. They've done it. They've had eons and eons and eons of practice at it. It's just things that we employ so that we learn other things. It's a skill that you learn, and then they move on from it and they go to other things. Yes, they can do art. Yes, they can, but it's not a pastime or a full-time idea. You don't see any full-time artists among the ET. They're doing other things. So.
Yeah. I saw a question there about music. They have music as well. Dolly talks a lot about this in the book Symmetry. And I've certainly heard it from other people. There was a case in, I think it was Norway or somewhere in the the Scandinavian countries, where a lady heard music and she's like, where's that music coming from? It sounds really beautiful. It was a UFO coming down.
Yeah.
I interviewed a lady who lives in Virginia. She said the same thing. The Greys came into her room and there'd be music. I started hearing this from other people. And I asked Dolly about it, and she's like, oh yeah. She actually listens to music when she's piloting the craft. I'm like, okay, name this. Let's hear some of the songs. And she went through the whole list. We go into detail into this. She's gone on the craft when they're
Yeah.
that
I'm
means to
starting
me,
out when
the whole
when
deal.
I get on board and I go through all my checks and everything. There's one song that I play, and when I'm getting ready to go, that song is going for me, and it helps me to concentrate on what I'm doing because it's involved. There's a lot going on with that, and Talata likes it too, so he just listens with me, and yeah, it keeps me focused. Music is a
cool.
language that it's mathematical. Everything mathematical is music. Like some of us have, like I see numbers as colors. My daughter does too.
Anesthesia.
Yeah, and synesthesia. Yeah. Mathematical equations look different to me than they do to you, and they sound different to me. I want y'all to understand something. I'm going to say this because I need to. Every time I hear it, I go crazy because you're not using it right. Frequency. What is the definition of frequency? Frequency is when I do this, I'm going to clap. By doing this and striking my hands together, I created a frequency of sound. The air and everything vibrated around me, and it made that sound. And it's a specific frequency of my clap. Frequency is not you. You produce a frequency. Your brain and your consciousness have alpha, gamma, beta, theta, delta frequencies. And how you think and what your consciousness is thinking is a signature frequency that belongs to you and you alone. You can turn the volume up on it or you can turn the volume down on it, but you cannot alter it in any way. You are you. It's like a thumbprint, okay? And the entire universe is full of thumbprints and markers of frequency because everything is talking and making noise. That's what a frequency is. You cannot elevate yourself or become wise by changing your frequency. That's a cheap way of thinking about something that's hard work. We've gotten away from thinking that you have to work for something and that it can be given to you or easier. You can just evolve into it. No, you cannot. It's all work. That's why you're here, because this is the hardest place to learn to work. And you must employ what you know. And that's what that is. Knowledge is science, mathematics, languages, music, even art is a science. It is intelligence, things like philosophy, morality. These are all works that we have to use and understand and become wise with. And you can't do it until you learn it and learn how to use it, period.
Yeah,
But
and the best way
instead,
to do it is
Go ahead.
through experience. Face your fears, whatever you're afraid of, face it, work through it. If you have a goal, achieve it. It's all about applied knowledge. And a good example, and I'm going back to it, is learning astral projection, because we're all doing it, and yet most of us aren't really conscious of it. But if you have the knowledge of what to do and the steps to take, you can become fully conscious. It's very much like learning a musical instrument. That will elevate your awareness alone. Learning mathematics, anything you can learn and apply elevates your consciousness. That's, I think, the best way to look at it, not raising a frequency. You want to move towards love, recognizing that we're all one, and doing what you can to increase your wisdom, your abilities, your knowledge.
Right. I'll also bring up another elevation of frequency. This is the next level of thinking about frequency. All light emits a frequency, and there are different frequencies of light. Okay, that's how we see with our eyeballs. You're seeing blue and red and some browns and pretty colors here. Each one of us in this block and that thing on the right top is a frequency of light. Okay, it's how our brain understands what we're looking at. It's art frequency, literally how we see things. That's why synesthesia is real. That's why I see numbers as colors. But there's a light frequency that's out there that you do not perceive in this body at this time. You can't, with these eyes, see all the frequencies of everything there is. And that's the next level of understanding. And you have to be smart enough to understand how that might work and then employ what it means to get to being able to see that. That's how you elevate yourself. Okay.
You're not raising your frequency. You're not raising your vibration. That's another buzz term that sets Dolly off, because people are using it in ways that are not.
It distracts you from the truth, and I'm telling you the truth, okay? Please understand that. I want you to explore this stuff. I want you to know what I know. I want you to be as happy about it as I am, because it's cool. It brings joy. And here's the second thing. If you want to learn something, turn the TV off. Quit listening to the media tell you what you need to know. They're not telling you the truth about anything. Shut it off. Quit watching bad things. If you got a game and it's teaching you how to kill and think differently and call bad names, turn it off, throw it away. It's not good for you. It's unhealthy. It's like drinking too much booze and polluting your brain. Don't do it. You know, do not get distracted by things that are distracting you. You know, that's a real easy thing to think of. Is this keeping me from learning, or is this helping me? You know, music can help you. Bad games and TV and bad rhetoric from people is bad. Just stay away from it. They'll tell any addict.
These are
Don't go
easy
where you
little
learn
things
to
you
do
can
that.
do. You know, procrastination is another one. Don't do it. What it does, it starts to steal your awareness, and suddenly you're absolutely overwhelmed with all these things that you haven't done.
Don't change it. Yeah.
It's very hard. We all procrastinate. I think we're all guilty of it to some degree. But if you can get on it and start working through it, you'll be better off for sure.
Ask anybody who exercises. You know, one of the things, say, you got a Peloton, you know what it's like to be on the damn thing for an hour, right? And it's like, and you get all the endorphins from it, and your brain is breathing enough oxygen to give you, hot highs even. That is how learning is. It teaches you the same thing that exercising does. It teaches you to follow through, to focus on it, to become one with it, right? Yes? Strengthen your body. You want to know how you can get your DNA to be a little bit more aggressive against what's coming at us? Strengthen your DNA. That means make your body healthy, make your mind healthy, learn the best you can, stay in positivity, eat, drink pure, clean things. Do not put things in your body that's going to mess your body up, and fluoride's number one. It's amazing what we can do, but you have to want to dive into the pool and swim.
Yeah, a lot of people write to me like, you wrote this book on ET healings. Can you send the ETs to heal me? I wish I could. I can't. I don't have that ability, but there are steps you can take. Astral projection, I keep going back to it, but I've got 20 or 30 cases of people who've healed themselves through the process of astral projection. Yeah. But commune with nature. Allow laughter and joy into your life. Exercise is huge. Right. Surround yourself with people who love you and support you and nurture you. There's all these things you can do to heal yourself. Diet is very important. Getting enough sleep, relaxing, learning how to accept life and not fight it. There's all kinds of things that you can do to heal yourself.
Right. Be in joy.
I love that. Yeah. I'll do one more question. This one's from Miranda Anderson. She says, thanks, Miranda, for your question. She says, every time I go out of body, it's pitch black. How do I turn the light on? She says. Maybe she's doing something.
I know that feeling. Yeah. There are things you can do. I had a lot of trouble seeing in the beginning. There's a couple of tricks. One is to just visualize light. Look for anything, any point of light that's in your view, and focus on that. Call out, say, vision, improve, or say, clarity now. Demand it, intend it, command it.
What you're actually doing when you do that is you're turning your own light on so that it illuminates everything. You're a light itself. And you don't realize that some people, when they get on the other side, they don't realize that they're light itself, and you illuminate everything in your purview, everything around you. And by doing what Preston says is you're employing turning that light up so you see, okay? That's how that works. You're flipping the switch.
I love that. That's amazing. And do you guys feel like the astral world's like a different world than here? Or is it the same thing? It's just you're out of body? Okay. We're all dimensional beings. Okay. Let's get that straight first. You're not just a third dimensional being here. Your body's in the third dimension, but you, yourself, your consciousness is actually a multi-dimensional being. You live in source too. Okay. And so when you go out of the body, you leave the third dimension and you see everything as it is all around you. Okay. You're in dimensional space that's outside your body, outside the third dimension. So the lights do go on and you start seeing things. You go, wow, that was there all this time. You're actually seeing what's right in front of you for real. In actual, because you leave space time. Once you lose your body, you go out of it. You're out of space time. Your body's what's ticking you slow. You leave that environment and you go out into what's really there. That's real reality. Okay.
Yeah. The other side, this depends on how high of a dimension you go, for lack of a better term, more energetic a dimension.
Whatever.
It looks beautiful. There are trees there, flowers, it's absolute. There are people there. You can go real high to the point where it starts to lose form as we would think of it, where it's very energetic and very I don't even know how to put it because there really aren't words for it. But gosh, very much abstract kind of in a way.
Yeah. Psychic
you were
ability
saying
is
Dolly.
abstract. Yeah. We speak to one another psychically in the same language. Okay. People don't realize it because we're in the body and our brains all have a language that we speak. That's bogging you down to reality because you're actually, your psychic ability can hear every other language there is. It's all the same thing. You know, you hear the truth of that when you're psychic. You go into consensus with everything and everybody. You know, it's like, oh, are you talking to me in Chinese? No, we're just talking. Psychic ability is different from what we verbally say to one another. And it's all conceptual. It's that way because you can import tons, loads, and loads of information in a millisecond that you can't do in the body because we're slow tickers here. You know,
Yeah. Boobster is asking, are we orbs? Yeah, on the other side you can be. You lose your form and you become an orb. It's the coolest thing ever. Like, oh my God. It's really interesting.
I thought this was. I said one more question, but this will be the last question for sure. I promise. But I thought this was important because I feel like this is like something that people are going through nowadays. And this one's from Until the Sun Dies. He's been watching my channel for a while, and I think he follows you guys as well. He says. So I have schizoaffective disorder, and I've seen at least 18 UFOs. He says I've talked to positive ETs, and then I also have voices in my head that are tricky and negative. Dolly, is there anything I can do to protect myself?
This is a big, big, big one. You are capable of learning to tell what's real and what's not real. Don't let anybody ever tell you that you don't. What you see, you have to understand yourself, and you have to find a way to ferret that out. It's harder for you than it is everybody else because your brain doesn't have a separation. Your physical mind doesn't separate out all this information that's coming in at you. You're very psychic, probably. Okay. Most people are anyway. You just don't realize it. So what you have to do is test everything you see, feel, hear, and do. If you have the disorder, what you need to do is start meditating, learning to do that, and tell everything that's coming at you, not right now. I'm working things out for myself, and I'm going to come through this one thing at a time. And then you test it. You become the best researcher on the planet for yourself. If you see something that's there, prove to yourself that it's really there one way or the other. If it's an entity talking to you, get it to tell you something that's provable, tangible, that you can reciprocate and come back at with knowledge, okay? That way you learn to tell the difference that it's your physical mind giving you funnies, you know, like watching cartoons, or reality. That's what you have to do. And it's not unattainable for you, it is, but you have to sit and really think about it. It's almost like you almost have to like keep a journal, but don't write without thinking about what you write. Be very specific. Okay. Become a researcher for yourself and write down, this happened and I'm looking at this and I need to figure out if it's real or not. You talk to yourself, you talk yourself through it, because your pineal gland's got to operate wide open for you to hear the truth. Your consciousness is up there telling you the truth, and it's you that's got to ferret that out. It's a very, very hard test that you've asked yourself to do in this lifetime. That's your path.
Yeah,
that's
all.
all.
Just underline, know yourself. We here in this planet these days love labels. People are talking about, you know, being on the spectrum of this or that, and I think I'm not so sure how helpful that is, because I know people who had encounters and were labeled schizophrenic, and I'm not so sure they were. Yeah. You have to really ferret out yourself what is happening to you.
What do you guys think about what's going on with entities? Like, I had Jerry Marzinski on my show. He I don't know if you guys ever saw him. He's really interesting. He worked in like psychiatric hospitals for like for a long time. You know, he saw like schizoactive people that he felt like they were possessed, but he felt like the schizophrenia was being caused by entities, like by some kind of demonic entity. You know, he feels that that's what most mental illness is. Like, would you guys agree with that, or do you feel like there's definitely like there's differences, or like, you know, I mean, how much of it is entities, and if it is entities, who are these entities? You know,
well, everything that's around our planet. When if somebody's really, really bad, and they're going to stay bad, and they're not going anywhere else after they physically lose their body, and they stay here for whatever reason, and they're roaming around looking for somebody who's lit up like a a giant flame. They're interested in energy, and because they left here confused, they stay confused because they're not going anywhere to figure anything out. They're not going back to source and get, put through it to bring them back to themselves. They're walking around still acting nutso because they don't know. And yes, they can become evil, like they can hurt you emotionally, they can attack you. That a lot of them do that, and that's what you would call a demon. It is a totally 100% repressed, confused, disembodied entity from here that is confused, and it's only coming after you because you're all light and it needs help. Okay, and that's why the Catholic Church started saying, well, we can fix this by giving you an exorcism. Well, all they're doing is driving that entity away. They're not trying to help it. If you're really wide open psychic and you ran across that, and Preston and I both have, people walking around totally confused and say, you know what, let's talk about this. I know someplace you can go to get help, and you walk them through it so you can get them to the completely off this realm into the other side where they do get help. Okay, that's what's actually going on. We're all recycling and doing all kinds of stuff. And if you're 100% convinced and you don't know anything and you're nuts, acting crazy, because you learn to do that mindfully from this physical mind, you're going to keep employing that until you go where you need to go. And yeah, people, we're our own worst enemies.
But I would caution against saying that all mental illness is caused by entities. I don't think there are organic conditions for sure.
I think mental illness, all mental illness is that your brain took a hit. Your physical mind is not where it ought to be. Okay. It is a physical component of your being, who you are when you're alive here, and it can be damaged. That's all mental illness is. It can be damaged emotionally, it can be damaged physically, it can be damaged genetically, and you show signs and symptoms of that. And doctors here in the beginning were trying to help you with that. And then they begin to realize, well, there's some things that can't help you. They just have to keep you calm and to exit stage right. Okay. Not understanding that is a big problem. That's where education comes in, because those questions are because you don't really know. You don't have an education in how the physical mind actually works and what it's capable of doing and not doing. You're still psychic. Everybody on this planet has the same pineal gland in their head, and you're still wide open psychic. You're just not using it, or you've been talked out of it. So here you go. You got somebody whose brain isn't physically, your physical mind isn't working at 100%, but they're still psychic. How do you make sense out of that? See what I'm saying? It's hard.
Yeah.
That's why know thyself. Physician, heal thyself. We're all our own physician, but without educating you and teaching you that you got a chance to work on this, you're doomed. See what I'm saying?
Yeah. And it's a cop-out to point to spirits to say for causing all the evil on this planet. There are people who make their own decisions. You are in control of your own life. You are autonomous. Right. Yes, spirits can influence you, but that's up to you.
You let them or not.
Gather your own power and do the right thing.
And I said one more. This is for me. I got to ask this. So do you guys believe like Robert Monroe's theory of loosh, because it's become a big kind of tag word in our society today, or in our community? Like a lot of people think that like entities loosh feed off of us, like they feed off our energy. Like, what do you guys feel about this?
Okay, I'm gonna explain that one out. Okay, first thing I learned from ET, literally first thing because I had an incident when I was 5 years old, and I was completely weirded out about the whole thing. And what I was taught very young by them, very young, is this: nothing can feed off of you. You are energy itself. We're all energy. Even that entity is energy itself. What it is drawn to when it's away from the body, okay, and it's on the other side, it's attracted to any energy around it because it's light. We're all light, and it sees your light as a good thing, and it wants to be with you. And if it could meld with you, it would, okay? But we're all autonomous entities, so you're not going to let it. Some people, and this is delusionary on our parts, to think that we're possessed. Nope. You let that entity climb on board with you, not totally take you over, but in your physical mind, you can let it talk to you constantly and not leave. You give it permission to be there. Okay. Stop. Don't do it. It's not okay. You need to tell that entity, like I told you before, you're in trouble. Let's get you to where you need to go. That's why understanding what the process is and what's really going on is so important, because you are never, ever, nothing can possess you. Nothing can take your soul away from you. Nothing can move your soul out of your body. Only you. You're full 100% in control of yourself. That's the truth. Reality. Okay.
I don't think entities are, quote, feeding off of our fear, but there are entities who certainly will take a perverse joy in your troubles because they're, basically have chosen the path of evil. And if you look at all the vast literature on OBEs and astral projection, his account of that is pretty much unique. I wonder about this because I absolutely admire Robert Monroe. He's the one who really taught me how to do this, but I'm not so sure I fully buy into, or that people are understanding how he put that out, and it's being
evil has
quite a bit, and I don't think that's exactly what he meant.
Evil has temper tantrum all the time. You know, a 2-year-old that's out of control. What do? You either send it to go be quiet and learn how to control itself, or you reprimand it, or whatever it is. Whatever.
Playground.
Yeah, it's out of control. It's an out of control, and everything likes to be warm. Everything likes the light, and when you're disembodied, you're going to head for the light. You get confused about what light it is that you're supposed to be heading for, and you'll head for any light that's around you, and that's us, because we're very lit up. Okay, when we're in the physical body, our lights are pretty bloody bright. Okay, you just don't see it, and so they're going to, go toward your life. They're not feeding off of you. They just want to get warm, and they're confused. That's it. That's all you got to do. And if you understand it, you can see it and you understand what's going on. You can tell that entity, okay, you're not supposed to be here anymore. Let's figure out where you need to go. But you have to be willing to cooperate in helping it. If you can't help an entity that way, it's because you didn't learn to help anybody here too. That's what we have to learn. We're not separate. If it's going to be a demon and it's going to be evil, you've been told not to help that entity. No, this is an entity just like you. It deserves to be helped. Okay, you just have to know how to do it, and that's educating yourself in the proper way and understanding what light really is.
Not always easy. Some of these have chosen evil, and they're not.
They're having a tantrum, and you better bloody be sure about what you're doing when you work with them. And if you can't, find somebody who can. Seriously,
Yeah. And just real quick about crop circles. Polly Rodderman wanted to know. She says, "What about crop circles that we don't understand? Would you say these are messages from the ETs? Is that them trying to communicate with us?"
Every crop circle that's ever happened, somebody asked the question and a circle showed up. Not all crop circles are from ETs. Some of them we put down. But the ones that are highly mathematical and complicated and are answering specific questions, they're real. They put them there.
100% real. Dr. Levengood has proven that these are not man-made. It's easy to tell by just putting these
under
a microscope.
There's a difference.
Yeah,
they're real. Awesome. I love the crop circles. They're clearly.
The crop circle is the grass. The grasses, the grains are not completely flat down. They bend like this. Okay, and it's because an electromagnetic field came down and put a picture on. Put an electromagnetic field around it, and it bent them all down at the same time. It was already decided what it was going to be. It was mapped out, and they just went bink, and it went down.
Yeah, there's people
what I found interesting about the crop circles is the healing properties. I've heard stories of people going into crop circles and being healed and stuff. Have you guys heard about that? Do you have drop something? Sorry.
I think what's going on there is that it allows people to activate their own abilities because they're looking at something that's basically encouraging them to think out of the box, consider new paradigms. It's actually, in a way, how would I put this, elevating their own ability to do what they already do have the ability to do.
They walked into a
crop circle itself doing it. It's them.
Yeah. Well, wow. This was amazing. I mean, I can't believe we went for 2 hours, but this was very fun. This was very informational. I thought this was an excellent podcast. Do you guys want to tell everybody where they can find you? Whoever would like to go first, and anything you want to promote. And thank you so much, guys. This was awesome.
All right. You want me to go first, Dolly? All right. First, thanks, Rob. I'm sorry Coley couldn't be here, but maybe next time. It was a fun show. I'm easily reachable on pretty much all the social media platforms. Just punch in my name and you can find me there. I do have a YouTube channel where I put out a lot of my research. Got a bunch of books available on Amazon. I have a website. I do a show with Dolly each Monday evening, The Light Gate. So we're working on our next book, Symmetry. I'm very excited about that. Going to put out another one on out-of-body experiences. I'm keeping busy.
That's awesome. So it'll be Symmetry Part 2.
Yes.
Yep.
It'll have a new name other than Symmetry Act, but you'll know it's
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's symmetry was the first idea I wanted to put forth because there's symmetry throughout everything. Okay. And then the next one is going to have to do with your abilities, the name of it. I'm not going
And
to tell
Dolly
you.
has a YouTube channel too, where you can go and see some of the photos and film evidence and some of her
Yeah.
ET lessons, so to speak.
Yeah. And I'm on Instagram. I have pictures up on Instagram and films. And I'm on Facebook and I'm on Messenger. And if you put a message to me in Messenger, I'll answer you, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And did you want to, yeah, thank you. And I have your Twitters listed and your Facebooks and your websites and stuff like that. And yeah, thank you so much, guys. This was amazing. And yeah, any final words before we go?
I would just say recognize that you're an immortal being, allow love and truth to guide your actions, move away from fear, and have fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Be in joy. Namaste.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. And thank you, Dolly. And thank you, Preston. And have a good night, everybody. Take care. Coley, you can end the show now if you want to end the show. I don't know if she heard me.
She probably did. She's been watching.
Okay. I'm just going to take off then. All right. I'll see you guys. Thank you, everybody. All right. Have a good night.
Wait. Rob, do you see a big red button on the top right of your screen?
You know, I don't. It won't give me. She has control over it, so it won't let me end it. She has to end it.
I think you
Because
can.
it's-
Click
it's
on it.
doing it too.
Click on it. Seriously, click on it.
No, it would
I
say
don't have it.
Oh, you don't have that red button?
No, she has it because it's mainly being streamed from her channel. So, you know, I hope she can hear me and stuff. You know, this is funny. So I'm just gonna click up and then hopefully she gets the message that we saw it. And all right, thanks guys. Have a good night. Take care, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.